Welcome to Brand New Taste, a podcast for brands in the food and beverage industry, focusing on new innovation and how understanding taste is vital to commercial success. Your hosts are Brant Maybury and Micah Carr-Hill, co-founders of the leading development agency, Tastehead.
Hi, it's Micah here. This episode is an interview with Pritesh Mody, one of the UK's leading drinks experts, who is the founder of World of Zing and a regular presenter on Channel 4's Sunday Brunch. Pritesh specialises in showcasing innovative ingredients to create exciting cocktail flavour combinations, whether it's nori seaweed in a margarita or chickpea water in a whiskey sour. Pritesh launched World of Zing in 2014 to bring exciting moments of mixology and cocktail innovation to a wider audience, operating from one of Europe's most advanced cocktail labs in London, including things like molecular mixology and cocktail aging facilities. World of Zing's cocktails are crafted in small batches using the finest spirits, handmade liqueurs and bespoke bitters. The Zing team is now responsible for designing and producing cocktails for some of the UK's most prestigious venues, including the Langham Hotel, the Belmond British Pullman and Doyle Collection hotels. They also have a range of cocktails which you can buy at your local Majestic, which are under the World of Zing. Four of their most well-known cocktails, a Negroni, which is cask-aged, and the margarita I noted before that has nori seaweed and Persian lime in it. It was really great to have this opportunity to talk to Pritesh, someone I've known for years actually. You know, it's good to talk to him in a professional capacity and to talk about his journey so far and at the World of Zing have overcome the various challenges they inevitably faced over the years. So here's our interview with Pritesh now. I hope you enjoy it. Hi Pritesh, how are you?
Not too bad. How you doing?
Excellent. I'm good, thank you. Well,
good.
Look, thanks for coming along today, giving your time to us. It's great to have another guest. So we've known each other for a while now. I remember first going out. We went out for some dinner with some of the food boys.
The food guys.
Yeah,
exactly.
Used to try different different restaurants. They were always good fun. But obviously, you're here today in your professional capacity, as I am.
As much as professional can be in what our jobs are.
I think we're both very professional, British, as you know. So let's crack on with a few questions, and let's start with that basic question for the listeners. Tell us a bit about yourself and what you're up to at the moment.
Cool. So I run a company called World of Zing. We are essentially a pre-batch cocktail company, predominantly supplying the hospitality trade, so restaurants, bars, events companies. We look after, 300 to 400 operators, outlets now, which is pretty cool. We've also got a nice retail business, but the setup, I guess, is a little bit unique. We're not just there's no big factory anywhere, or it's all kind of handmade. We employ proper bartenders to develop recipes. It's a without sounding too cheesy, it's as much a labour of love and a passion project as it is a raw commercial business, which obviously it has to be. Yeah. We've been going for 8 years, or near enough 9 years this year.
Yeah. And to last that long, especially through COVID and so forth.
Exactly.
It's obviously got to be successful.
Yeah, it's success is all relative, right? Yeah. So the biggest problem of owning a business is owning the business, as it were. And I started this company in 2014 as it started off as a bit of a passion, my passion for drinks, etc. But suddenly you grow, and then you start employing people, and then you expand, and before you know it, you become basically a red tape person, the admin guy, whilst everyone else is having the fun. And so over the last couple of years, I've been trying to reverse that, and to varying degree, I think to a decent level of success, where I'm now back in the coalface, as it were, and back to developing and getting that
Need the passion back.
back. The passion's always there. It's frustrating because, you know, like, you want to be over there doing what everyone else is doing, and you're stuck at your desk or whatever.
So you've got someone else to do all the admin stuff now.
Yeah, there's a decent team now around, you know, and so there's people now everyone kind of jumps in and has got their roles, taking off the admin off me, as it were, some of it anyway.
Yeah, I think there's a similarity at Tastehead because there's now 11 of us at Tastehead, and when it was just Brant and I, you know, we were doing everything from obviously developing the stuff in the kitchen through to the admin. Now Brant does more of that because he's full-time and I'm only part-time there. But now we've got most of the bases covered.
Yeah.
There's still Brant as MD does a lot of that still, but he can get into more of the sort of marketing side. And also I try and spend as much time in the kitchen with the guys as development director. But yeah, you want to keep your hands dirty.
Yeah.
You know
I think, look, don't get me wrong, I think it's really important to have the journey to understand the various facets, the nitty-gritty of the business, because then, you know, when you do employ someone, then you know what you expect and what success looks like in that role. You know, I was there from, I don't know if you ever came to our market stalls, but we started off at Broccoli Market.
No, I didn't. I remember coming to your to the launch, your development place, but not and to your launch, but not to
so we started,
launch, I remember very well. It was very tasty.
Yeah, exactly. In East London, in Mile End. But we had I was on the market stalls for first 18 months, every weekend, getting up, grabbing the missus, grabbing a van, and setting up. And I'm pretty sure that's not what she signed up for.
No, no, she's married to you now, so she's got to
exactly.
help out.
Quit a career, a solid career in marketing to kind of essentially become a white van man market trader, pound of bananas.
Yeah, nice.
Negronis instead.
Well, yeah, no, it's good. Anyway, I mean, what's interesting is, for me, it's how also you got here, because, I mean, what did you train in anything to do with food and drink? How's your journey go from Pritesh is a sort of a young man, sort of fired up. I mean, did you study anything to do with food? How did you get to where you are now?
So I come from a family which is rich in food heritage. So my family are one of the oldest spice merchants in the country. They also were involved in launches of things like Cobra Beer and quite big Indian brands. Even to this day, kind of, you go to your Dishoom's, your Gymkhanas, etc. It's my family that supply a large bulk of ingredients into them. So I've grown up around great ingredients, great food, great chefs. My dad couldn't boil an egg. He doesn't really know where the toaster is, but show him, a load of spices and attempt to pick the best one, and it'll tell you in a split second what good looks like. But he wouldn't know what to do. He wouldn't know what to do with it. Ask him to, but it's just like, that's the good stuff, right? And then, coming from quite frankly, coming from an Indian family, I'm expected to go and get a proper job, having been shown the wonders of the food world since I could walk, hanging out in chefs and kitchens and breweries and whatever, just hanging out. And suddenly, so I studied law, which was not a bad degree, to be fair. It teaches you how to sort of set an argument for yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Good in business. Sell strategy. Yeah. So studied law, came out and went, there's no way I'm studying law, and just kind of fell into marketing and PR in the food world.
Okay.
Which was great fun, because again, kind of, you get to ultimately, whatever we are, we're always trying to sell something.
Yeah.
Whether you're a lawyer, whether you're a market trader, whatever you are, you're trying to sell yourself. You're trying to sell a brand, your service, whatever it is, right? And so I think kind of having law, in a funny kind of way, and then going to marketing, where you're kind of still using communication skills to communicate why your product is better than or should be taken notice of.
Yeah.
It really kind of it's really eye-opening, actually, what makes a brand and what makes people connect to brands and products.
Yeah.
So really, that my background is more in marketing and less in touchy-feely. But essentially, I was marketing director of quite a well-known Dutch distillery for a number of years, and increasingly I was getting asked just by chance by the taste team, like, can you have a taste of this? And it turned out I had a sort of knack for understanding drinks, in particular spirits, and how they should taste, feel, etc. So kind of just started spending more time of my own time, really, learning by myself. So I have no formal training other than I grew up in some of the biggest spice warehouses in this country, messing around as a child and with incredible chefs, and then playing around with booze.
But I think that's a good point. Is when I worked at Green and Blacks, and we used to do a lot of tastings, and I used to get other members of the staff to taste, and for blind tastings, and through blind tastings, I knew the people in the company who could taste, because they could pick out the same product, the control, and the one in the blind tasting, whereas some people couldn't do it at all.
Yeah, sure.
And sometimes it was people. There's one guy in accounts who had a really good palate, wherreas some people who worked in other bits, which should have been better at tasting, weren't so good. But I didn't really sort of let on, because I didn't want to make people either feel nerves about it or anything like that. But like you say, some people have a knack for it, and just because people work in the food or drink industry doesn't mean that they've got a good palate. A lot of what I've found is when I go into a business is to try and teach people, because you can teach this. There's a very sort of a distinct way of doing it, where not everyone's going to have the best palate in the world. But when I did my WSET wine up to diploma, there was a stipulated way of tasting, appearance, aroma, then taste, and the taste should only be sort of verifying what you've seen and you've smelt, and texture and all these things, breaking it down. So I completely get where you're from there, and I completely understand it as well. And this goes on to a question I've got, because you've had these different roles and now you're doing what you're doing, is what when people say to you, Pritesh, or you're at a party or in a pub, they say to you, so what do you do? That age-old question. What do you say? I mean, do you say businessman? Do you say a product developer? What sort of thing do you say?
I think well, generally I'll say I'm a cocktail developer. I own a cocktail development company.
Yeah,
is actually what we are, because I'm not a mixologist. Is a funny word. Some people like it, some people don't.
I got called it the other day, and I know, a bit weird, isn't it? And I develop drinks, but I'm not a mixologist.
You're not a mixologist, right?
Yeah.
But what is a mixologist? It's like, in the food, in the old days, what was Heston? Heston was called like
a molecular chef.
Yeah. I mean, it's just understanding ingredients and understanding a bit of science. But if you don't understand, look at a steak, right? If you char a steak perfectly, you get it. That's just science.
Yeah.
Does that make that chef a molecular chef?
Yeah.
Because he understands how to cook and which is the most basic of science. But most chefs don't know how to cook a steak.
Yeah.
Quite frankly.
Yeah.
But give them a rotovap or whatever it is, and a smoke gun. And suddenly they're molecular. But, do you know what I mean? But you can't make me a martini.
No. Exactly. And it's that thing about tasting, isn't it? It's like you say, is that whenever, I'm sure when you're doing a new product or an existing one, you're constantly tasting.
Oh,
constantly.
Yeah.
Otherwise, because like a lot of ingredients or raw materials, I often call them, is they vary, because a lot of them are natural. So one batch is not the same as the next.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But I think that comes the way that my approach is slightly, or it's considerably different. I'm not a mixologist. I've never worked in a bar, like in a professional capacity. I've done loads of events, but I take a foodie view of making drinks, developing drinks, and I think that's what really set us apart from the beginning. Is we don't just go. So I've got a theory that I would say that a drinks person has a better palate than a chef. So a cocktail expert has a better palate than a chef, because they've got to get everything into one glass, right? So you've got to get texture, aroma, balance perfectly, and even theoretically a drink that evolves, because drinks evolve with
Yeah, sure.
dilution, right?
Sure.
So you need to understand all of this in one sip.
Yeah,
It's like that competition, was it Iron Chef or something, where it's just
Yeah.
one bite or whatever.
Yeah,
right?
I think I know the one you
There's
mean.
like a cooking show. Whereas a chef has multiple kind of ways. They'll put 3, 4, 5 components, and you can kind of make your perfect bite, as it were, right? But the problem with bartenders, and this is what I felt and I identified early on when I launched it, is my approach was a bartender doesn't necessarily have the dictionary of ingredients in their mind.
Yeah.
So you'll talk to them and go, they'll go, it tastes like cloves and it tastes like this herb and da-da. But they couldn't pick out actually what that looks like. If you showed them a picture and went, show me a picture of that ingredient you spoke of, they wouldn't know. They've never actually
handled it,
right? Whereas I've handled all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to go back and go, right, I've got this, a decent knowledge of ingredients. And how do we apply that to make drinks better, to make cocktails better?
I think it's a really good point. I came originally from the wine industry. Like I said, I did the WSET diploma, but I taught myself how to cook, and then I did a food science degree and all that. But what I found is that what always surprised me, you go to a great restaurant and you'd have these chefs who were very good chefs, but they often knew nothing about wine. And to me, you can't have a great meal without some great wine. And,
Yeah.
And if you're having some great wine, it's good to have some really good food with it. So they're inextricably linked.
Yeah.
But like you say, there isn't that training. And when I started Tastehead with Brant came from the chefing side. And, so he's very well mastered in a lot of techniques and so forth. But when it came to wine, he was still didn't know a lot. And it's something that he's trying to learn more and more, and he's really obviously interested in it, but it's not something that's usually in that sort of in that arena of chefs getting to know wine. There are obviously some notable exceptions, but I do think that is quite odd. So it very much sort of reflects what you've just said. But I mean, let's go just talk a bit about, like you said, World of Zing, known for its ready-made cocktails. You started in 2014, but is it something that was new then, or something that has been around for a while?
I think. Well, we were I think the first or one of the first companies to put in a modern era.
Yeah.
A premium cocktail. Literally bartender quality.
Yeah.
Cocktail into a bottle. So we were doing at full ABV. Negronis, Manhattans, margaritas, etc. So yes, RTDs have been around. Well, RTD to me is a very different concept. RTD is sort of low ABV, kind of cheaper, volume by numbers kind of stuff. Whereas we're a proper cocktail, so we kind of refer to ourselves as ready to serve.
Okay.
Which is slightly different, but it is at bartender quality. However, actually, if you go back through history, the concept of pre-batching liquid is actually as old as cocktails, if not older. So you look at a punch, for example, right? So that's 1800s, early, late 17, early 1800s. British creating punches in India. So a massive sharing bowl of cocktail.
Sure.
But Jerry Thomas's book, he actually very specifically spoke about bottling cocktails.
Okay.
And has recipes in there for bottled cocktails. Again, kind of from a perspective of quality of how age can enhance liquid, or just convenience. Some things lend themselves to being bottled, so why not?
Yeah, absolutely. And what the advantages of your ready to serve cocktails over a bar person making a cocktail from scratch in the bar?
As we spoke about, even in the chefing world, is there's only so much skill available, right?
Sure, yeah.
And we're in this kind of period now where golden period for cocktails, really, where demand for cocktails is at an all-time high.
Yeah.
I think particularly post-COVID, everyone went cocktail mad because, quite frankly, a G&T or a glass of wine every so often is fine. But actually, when people are always going out and drinking cocktails, and suddenly you're stuck at home and you want to upskill, you've got time, upskill, and you want to challenge yourself, whether it was people doing these cooking classes online and everything was about what can I do to take things to the next level for my food and drink. So cocktails, we've come out of lockdown, and cocktails are just demand is at an all-time high, and without going too far down this rabbit hole, but Brexit has not done hospitality or any service industry in this country any favors whatsoever. So suddenly you've got record demand for cocktails and whatnot, and not enough staff, and there weren't enough skilled staff in the first place. So we're kind of, if you look at my team, they're all ex-Hawksmoor, ex-Dishoom. We call it bartenders rehab at World of Zing, where these guys are all late 20s, early 30s, or and they want to get home in time for EastEnders or whatever it is, and try and keep hold of a relationship and kids or whatever. So these guys are all very passionate about drinks industry, and we've carved out a very, I guess, unique opportunity for these guys to continue their education and maintain their passion for drinks, because that's 10 years of like serious understanding of how drinks work and flavors and excitement, right? So there's a solid team now there that we all kind of are super passionate about drinks and how it works.
So you're talking about the ready to serve. What do you think the trend for those are? I mean, you're saying that it's never been bigger, but going forward, not just for those though, but maybe other drinks in general, and that thing that is always there. I mean, I know we are more sort of we like an alcoholic drink, or we like water or coffee, as we've spoken about before.
Oh right, that's literally
we're the same like that. But the no and low alcohol drinks are becoming bigger.
Yeah.
With your expertise in this area, what do you think the trends are likely to be going forward?
I still, and this may come back and bite me, but I'm still skeptical on the no alcohol as it is right now, as in like as a direct alternative. So I want gin, but I don't want alcohol. I'll have non-alcoholic gin.
Yeah.
I don't know who's actually making any money from that. Seems to be a lot of entrants appearing every single day, and I don't actually know anyone that drinks this stuff. What interests me, and I think is exciting, is the low alcohol.
Yeah.
And again, not stuff that is engineered to be low alcohol, like de-alcoholizing and reducing or whatever. These gins that are only 18% gins, inverted commas, whatever. But things that are actually what's exciting me is that people are actually being educated into categories that have always been naturally low in alcohol that can serve as an acceptable substitute or an exciting substitute, like Amaro, like vermouth, like sherry, and so I'm talking, if I take a gin and tonic and I could go, said I'll have an Amaro tonic, I'll have a sherry tonic, something like that, manzanilla with tequila into your margarita. So these things I think it's really important that we always consider at World of Zing, it's flavor first.
Yeah.
Right? Let's get the flavor right, and then we can work backwards. But I need to know the benchmark of flavor, and we're not going to compromise on that.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to drop, the ABV of my tequila, of my margarita, then I'm not going to replace it with a non-alcoholic tequila, because
it won't be the same. It'll just be.
So how do we enhance the experience? And so say like adding, say, manzanilla into your tequila, or like Amaro into whatever it is. There's so many different ways, and these are age-old products that are proven to be popular. Have got history, heritage, quality, ultimately,
and variety as well.
Right? And these are so my gin and tonic consumption has dropped drastically in the last couple of years, and that's not because I'm consciously trying to necessarily drink less alcohol. But I also understand that there's actually I just enjoy a new category which delivers the same refreshment, and just happens to be lower alcohol, which is the bonus.
Yeah.
So if I'm sessioning, then I might start off sessioning, again inverted commas, sessioning responsibly. But you start off with Campari soda or something like that. Before it was like 7 gin and tonics in your home, right?
Yeah. But we so I saw you quite recently when we were. we were doing the shandies with the
Correct.
Corston.
Correct.
And this is something I had a lot when it's been the really hot months over the summer. So rather than just having a beer, mixing it with a bit of ginger beer or something like that.
You've got to enjoy your drink.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not enjoying, why are you even drinking? Like, just have some water, as we say. Whereas those shandies it was such a fun project to work with you on that, because, again, like, people go towards, I'll have a low alcohol beer, but a shandy will get you to that same ABV and give you actually an exciting, a more interesting experience. And I hate one thing I'm really into, and I've been into for years, actually. I call it kind of conscious consumption.
Yeah.
Right. And so I don't eat or drink anything unless I actually want it.
Yeah.
So that means, like, it's linked to, like, intermittent fast. I started off as intermittent fasting, but now it's just a way I live, where I genuinely won't even eat dinner. Like, if it's not what I want to eat, like, I actually want to enjoy it, I just won't eat. Like, what's the point?
Yeah.
We're not starving in this country. No one's hungry or thirsty in this country. So there's a lot of kind of
a lot of snacking,
all this. And what was the pleasure you derived from that Mars bar or that, I don't know, whatever, Lucas, whatever it is, you know what I mean? But I don't get it.
Yeah.
So, like, the same with, like, beer. Like, if you're going to have or drinks, if you're going to have something, and you're going low and no, make it enjoyable. Like, make it really enjoyable, because for the same price, you can still do it. There's no barrier except for a bit of innovation.
You're listening to Brand New Taste. Your hosts are Micah Carr-Hill, food scientist, product developer and taste expert, who has held the position of Head of Taste at premium brands Green and Blacks and Corston Press. And Brant Maybury, development chef, taste specialist and managing director of Tastehead, leading innovation projects for brands of all sizes.
Talking about innovation, so that was my next question, is going back to World of Zing. What role has innovation played for World of Zing, and what's your sort of process been, and the sort of considerations you have when you're coming up with a new cocktail or a new recipe?
We're quite lucky in that we've got a really varied customer base in the on-trade. So we look after the British Pullman, Belmond, trains, all the way to Rosa's Thai Cafe, Tonkotsu, Bill's, cinemas, all kinds of stuff. So we've got such a revolving door of briefs, as well as, the TV stuff as well, and media stuff. So there's so many. Whereas when I first started, obviously we had to innovate off our own back, just kind of go, we need to create some noise. What can we do to create some noise? Whereas now, we've got some incredible clients. So we've got this revolving door of challenges. So a lot of them are fairly open briefs, but at least you've got something to aim for. And then so you look at a brief, but innovation to us is always with ingredients, and it's not, our stuff. We have rotovaps and we have all the kit that all the fancy bartenders like to talk about. We never talk about it.
No.
Because we're not trying to be molecular mixologists.
You just want the flavours to come through, as you say.
I just want the flavour to come through. So we might, these ingredients might have had to go through 7 different processes, but I'm just not. That's not your business. My business is to
making it great,
make it great, and I'll tell you what's in there.
Yeah.
But so innovation is always with us with ingredients, and that inspiration is always from. Like, we spend a lot of time eating and drinking out and read. All I do is read about food and drink, really. It's and constant kind
listening to other people's podcasts.
Listening podcasts and but it is like you kind of like constantly. I'm not an accountant or something, right? Like food and drink is
exactly. I think
cool. Like it's not a chore to immerse yourself into food and drink. All my friends are into food and drink. Like everything is food and drink.
You were saying. A couple of things you said there. First of all, around the media side. So that's an interesting thing. So a lot of the listeners may have seen you on Sunday Brunch, and you've done other media as well. But it'd be good to understand how that came about.
I mean, like, it's just one of those. Uh, we were doing a lot of when I first launched the company. We are just doing a lot of innovation, ingredients, spice blends, and stuff like that as well. Like just playing around. We're doing like Bloody Mary spices and sauces for drinks and all kinds of stuff. Like, and I got invited to BBC News to talk about something, or rather just around flavour. And then someone from Sunday Brunch saw it and went, "Oh, do you want to come and do a little segment for us?" And this was, 4 years or 5 years ago. And it turned out I was all right. And they said, "All right, do you want to come back and do another one and another one?" And suddenly,
Part of the furniture now.
Yeah, it's I think close enough 50, maybe almost 50 shows in this year. So yeah, it's been great. Like stuff like that it's so exciting, it's so fun, and it's a real privilege because it's not something I ever designed to do. I never thought in a million years, quite frankly, that would be on TV for anything other than Crime Watch, maybe. But
and with that, have you got a particular story or something? One of the drinks you made, do you get a particular reaction that you just absolutely loved?
Do you know what? For me, it's the same. I look for the same thing every single time, right? So there's always a theme. So it could be anything from, I'm working on Cocoa Week, cocktails for Chocolate Week at the moment, right? But it could be whiskey, it could be tequila, whatever. But what I like to do, the thing I look out for the most is to change people's minds on live TV.
Okay.
This is, guests on live TV in front of a million or whatever it is people. And it's not one of these shows that is it's not a polite show in that sense. Like if someone it's not it doesn't always have to be a happy show, like everyone's trying to, keep you up and boosted. If something's shit, like I don't know if I'm like people you'll see it on faces straight away. Like, you got a panel of 4 celebrity guests, 2 presenters, and me going, "Trust me, this is a good drink."
Yeah.
Right. But for me, what I look for is, people saying, "Oh wow, I didn't like whiskey, but that's great."
Yeah.
Like I think I did Louise Redknapp I did a show on whiskey or spritzes actually earlier in the year, but it was a whiskey based spritz, which in itself is not very common, right? And it was still very whiskey forward. It was using Slane's Irish whiskey. I think there was apricot jam, sage, and Cremant and something else, maybe a bit of citrus, but it was very whiskey forward. There's 50 ml of whiskey in there, and
whiskey has that intensity, doesn't it?
Right, and I wanted to, and she turned around and said, "That's great. Like I would drink that."
Yeah.
And so for me, that I've got someone who doesn't like whiskey onto thinking about whiskey, or even recently, this was really quite funny. But Joe Marler, I did a drink on beer cocktails, and he couldn't get. So temperature is really important for me. Like, so temperature is something that everyone forgets about at home of cocktails. Like, you can never have too much ice. And he couldn't get his head round how his drink was so cold. But I mean, like, he literally thought there was some sort of magical voodoo. Like, and this is live on TV.
Yeah.
And he was just like, "But why is my glass so cold?" I was like, "Well, it's just good ice."
Yeah.
And I've shaken it properly. And it was like, but something like that kind of, I want people to understand, I guess, the nuances and the complexity of what looks quite simple, but it is actually the attention to detail in cocktails. Again, like we're talking about before on chefs, like in a drink, there's nowhere to hide.
Yeah.
Like it either works or it doesn't. You don't wait. You don't go, "Well, let me try that combo with the potato and that," or let me figure it out.
Yeah. I think it's a good point. Something like temperature is so important with food and drink.
Yeah.
And it's not something that is the sort of people often think about. But obviously, if you have something too hot, it's going to burn your mouth.
Yeah.
But also, you're not going to taste it properly. So it's often better to have things that are a sort of a warm rather than hot. But also, coming from a wine background, people always sort of think, well, wine should be room temperature and white wine should be fridge cold. Well, room temperature is actually to do with room temperature when wine first was about. And so houses are much warmer now. So
exactly.
people are having like 25-degree range, should be 16 to 18 degrees, you know. And then, so usually it's better to put red wine in the fridge for half an hour before you drink it.
Yeah.
And conversely, with white wine, it should be about 6 to 8 degrees.
Yeah.
Not or even 8 to 10, depending on which one it is. Not sub 5 degrees.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's exactly that, and it changes those trigeminal effects in the mouth, and completely, like, you get different textures, you get different tastes, all these sorts of things. So important. So important. You also mentioned earlier on about the fact that you've got the drinks in retail, like selling the likes of Majestic. How did you find that? Because obviously you started and it was all supplying the trade, and then what was the thought behind, well, let's sort of supply them to retail, and how did you find that transition? You know, all that sort of, you know, finding the right bottle, bottling it, doing the tests to make sure, you know, it doesn't go off, and all these sorts of things.
Well, luckily, actually, we've always had a small retail division.
Okay.
So it wasn't so difficult. To be fair, it was just a natural progression from COVID habits.
Yeah.
You know, everyone needed bottled cocktails essentially, and, you know, luckily enough, kind of we struck a chord with Majestic and developed a range for them. So, but more than anything, the headache is in the supply chain, which again, you know, the B word, but it's not really helped anything in supply chain. And that's kind of,
I know about that.
But you know, beyond that, luckily, you know, they liked our core range, so they took our Persian lime nori margarita, the Bordeaux Negroni, you know, two of the classics, and a couple of others as well, and, you know, developing more stuff with them, which is brilliant.
Lovely. Yeah. No, I mean, I've had them and can say that, you know, they are, for someone who drinks Negronis a lot of the time, absolutely lovely. And it does, the flavours are, because they're aged, are sort of rounded out, and you get that length that we've talked about. So again, it changes the product, and for someone, like I said, drinks a lot of that, and the margarita's absolutely lovely.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, I mean, they all are. I mean, there's not a bad one there, but they're ones that I drink particularly. You talked about lockdown a bit. How did it, obviously, for the service trade, like anyone who worked with service, that must have fallen off a cliff.
Wasn't it? Literal, like, I've never but, you know, luckily, again, so we had a small retail set up already. We already had our website and, you know, an online dispatch, all that stuff. So yeah, luckily that got us through.
You
know, again, kind of the challenges of a D2C model are not to be underestimated. No. It's not as simple as stick it in a box and post it and make some money. Jesus Christ. Like, you know, it's not, I'm glad we're not doing that to that level again, and we're back to supplying on trade, for multiple reasons. I think, you know, on trade, as I say, they deliver us the challenges that force us to innovate, whereas retail, no one's delivering you any challenge. You put a product out and hopefully someone buys it.
Exactly.
But I like to see that interaction with, quite frankly, I like to be in a restaurant or a bar or walk past them and go,
I made that.
I made that. Or I know the guys that made it. I designed it.
Exactly. No, you don't make them anymore.
Yeah. Exactly.
No, you get someone else to. Right. We're sort of coming towards the end, but we've got a few things. The one that we tend to ask our guests is what your top 5 tips for a sort of food or beverage business starting in sort of 2022 or beyond. What sort of tips?
I don't know. Do you know what? I don't know if I've got,
or maybe just one or two.
Tips. I think tips are just. I think the one tip I'd say is act like the business you aspire to be, not the business that you are.
Yeah.
And in that sense, kind of, even when I was on the market stalls, you know, and that was the business essentially.
Yeah.
When I first launched, we didn't act like we budgeted to be a bigger business, if you know what I mean. Do you know what I mean? Everything was in our head, everything was like 10 times larger than, or in my head, 10 times larger than it was. Yeah. And that allows you the room to grow and that ambition. Like, it's no point starting a food business going, I've got a sauce, for example. Sauce is a great one because everyone
likes a sauce.
Everyone likes a sauce. And I look at the shelves that I go, there's Hot Burns and Black, where down in Peckham, they've got loads of hot sauces, Peckham and Deptford, and go there. And like, who are the people behind these sauces? Because like the effort required, and have they just gone, and you see it all the time. And I think we were talking earlier about, like development, what your clients look like. And we have a similar thing where some people just don't want to take their money. Like, honestly, just don't do this. You have an idea, but there's in food and drink, everyone's got an idea. Everyone's got a mum's recipe or a grandma's recipe, or I had this thing on holiday and I want. But what's the actual plan? Like, what is the plan beyond selling a bottle? So you got into Selfridges. So what? You got into Whole Foods. So what? Like, there's no money in that. What is the commercial plan to this?
Yeah, you need that, definitely.
Otherwise, I say there's a billion good ideas out there.
Yeah,
it's just
so much of it is. Obviously, you've got to have a good idea and something that either is better than what's on the market already, or so your best in show, or something that's completely unique. But so many people have tried. So many things. So you've got to have that little hook, something a bit different. But also, like you say, you've got to think about scale. Otherwise, you will be this sort of.
You're constantly fighting.
Yeah.
So if you're successful, you're fighting, and if you're not, you're sitting there wondering why. It's probably because you've not thought about what success looks like.
A couple of questions we always ask is your desert island. We usually say dish, but in your case, it might be a drink. Or it might be both.
Man, there's so much.
But if you
there's so much. Yeah, I know.
Choose one.
Do you know what? I don't drink many martinis because it's such a luxury. Do you know what I mean?
It is. Well, it's that old adage is like one isn't enough and two's too many. And
sometimes we've had three. One martini floor, right?
Yeah.
I think if I could, just the coldest, crispest martini, lemon twist, gin martini.
You're a lemon. See, I like a Gibson.
Lemon.
That's my go-to if I'm going that way.
Yeah. I can get down with that. But I don't know if I could drink. I could drink a lot of lemon twists.
Yeah, I'm looking for a bit more nutrition, so I'm always eating those onions. You see.
There's a lot of nutrition in lemon oil, my friend. A lot of medicinal benefits. So I think, and I generally, I might drink 2 a year.
Yeah. But those go down really well, don't they?
Yeah, because I mean, the night, all the stars have to. If you're going to start a night with a martini, you best make sure the rest of the night matches up to it. Do you know what I mean? Like, it needs to go big, and you need to be. You can't be standing. You've got to be sitting. A martini, you've got to be sat down. There's a whole thing around.
And I can remember last time I had a martini was a Vesper martini. I had 2 actually.
Yeah.
The Ritz, before I went for dinner at the Ritz. And I don't know if you've been to dinner at the Ritz, but it's, I mean, one of the best restaurants in the country as far as I'm concerned, for that classic French. And it's just, but we started well, and it was a great evening.
Yeah, exactly.
And we were sat down when we had them.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, there you go. But beyond I'm a tequila guy. Like, I love, so a Tommy's Margarita is just, Tommy's Margarita, grapefruit twist.
Yeah. And also, I mean, with tequila, we were talking about this earlier. That is one of those spirits that seems to be having a real sort of it's time. That and rum, definitely. I think I would say.
Well, rum's been threatening for years.
For a few years,
every year. I'm pretty sure is the problem with rum. I would say is that there's a lack of transparency in the category. So every rum region has its own definition of what an aged rum. What is 7? Like it says 7 years on it. Is that the oldest or the youngest? Has it got caramel in? Do you know what I mean? Like there's no clarity, and without clarity, you can't have true provenance. If you know what I mean. Like so, you look at Scotch. Scotch 3 years age, whatever.
Yeah.
You know exactly. There's nothing added. All the categories, or a lot of it, But when you're talking about rum and there's aging and all this stuff going on, but you don't actually know what else has gone on, and so you can't. Whereas tequila, I think, has got again the controls right around it, which really Well, it creates a barrier to entry for any Tom, Dick, and Harry, but actually creates a minimum level of quality.
Yeah.
For the 100% blue agave, like for me, when you're talking about 100% blue agave tequila, is there a bad one? I'm sure there are, but not really. Like you
I
can
know
be
what you mean.
fairly
It's more
safe in
about
that
stages.
category.
It's like the very unaged white ones, then you get some golden ones, and then the smokier ones we've talked about.
Like you go 12-year-old Speyside, you're going to find it's more difficult to find bad 12-year-old Speyside than good, right? There's like, it's a standard, 12-year-old Speyside.
It's more about styles.
It's going to be good. You're going to enjoy it. You know where you are. And same with tequila, 100% blue agave, bang, you've hit a quality standard. And then, so I think tequila's got that brilliant provenance. It's got the aging process. It's got the craft, the handiwork, all of it. That's a similar thing to what
and more of that. Like, it's more like whiskey in that sense than something like gin, because obviously we've seen this sort of, when is the gin thing gonna dip? I don't know. But
it's dipping now.
Is it? Because but you've got a lot
of
these flavoured gins and just sort of slightly, there's some obviously lovely gins out there, but they don't have that, like you say, they don't really get aged gins. No. You don't get all that sort of thing that you get with both whiskey, obviously, and tequila. And
I think tequila as well, it's got a beautiful breadth of options. Yeah. Because from tequila you can go to mezcal as well.
Yeah, of course.
And then so again, like that comparison with whiskey, but you've got a little bit of smoke there, or you've got lighter versions. You've got all the different ages, the different cask finishes. That there's a lot of innovation in cask finishes. There's a brilliant brand. Oh man, Spey. What are they called? There's a brilliant tequila brand, Storywood. Unbelievable. Okay. I'm just giving them a shout just because I think what they've done is incredible. But they're aging in Scotch barrels.
Old Scotch barrels. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Literally like Speyside barrels.
Okay, well,
aging tequila in that.
Popping down the shops afterwards.
Oh man, it's unbelievable liquid. Unbelievable.
We've got a massive fan of tequila back in Tastehead, Lucy.
All right,
Loves
go
it.
Lucy. Go and get yourself a Storywood.
Might have to buy her a bottle. Now, next one. So we've had Desert Island drink. So it's martini. What about your favourite bar or restaurant? Might be a bit of both. Might be.
Do you know what? I'm obsessed with this place called Arcade.
Okay.
In Tottenham Court Road at the moment, and it's basically like everything I could ever want in a dining emporium.
Okay.
I basically love eating more than I like drinking, but I like designing drinks more than I like cooking.
Right.
If you can figure that
out.
I
get that.
Yeah. So I'm a real fatty when it comes to food. And Arcade is owned by JKS, who own like Gymkhana and Bao and everything. And they've created like essentially an Asian food hawker market underneath Centre Point in Tottenham Court Road, where you've got like Iranian food, Indonesian, Thai, but just the best. I've been there 4 or 5 times, and each time I've come out
fat,
almost crying from eating. Like I just like a stitch, like that kind of like. And you see things because invariably what I do is like I've ordered my food and something. It's like 50, 60 different options of food, and all the different countries and stuff. And you're like, that looks really good. Can I just get one of them as well? And you just sit there.
Someone walks past.
Yeah,
what have you got?
Just go there by myself because it's a personal journey every time. I've been with my cousins once, and like good bar and dessert counter, all that stuff. But like focused eating. Arcade is the one, 100%.
Yeah,
go. I might go there now.
I will. I might pop down. So it's interesting. So I was at Gymkhana the other day.
Yeah.
So and we were talking about their sort of range of restaurants. I think that Arcade was mentioned, but I hadn't really picked up on it so much. So.
Honestly, it's the best food, all round food experience in terms of just options. But they've got the service right.
Yeah.
It's a food market of sorts, but it's all table service. Yeah. The whole thing is just brilliant.
And that's what you want it to be. Some of those sort of food market type things, they're just not. They just don't work so well on that service side of things. But if they've got that sorted, then
it's nice tables, nice chairs. Do you know what I mean? Like you're happy to kind of sit and just
Just pig out.
Just pig out.
Right. We'd always like a recommendation of a book. You mentioned a book earlier, and we're obviously on a podcast. So what sort of...
Did I mention a book?
You did mention a book about...
what did I read?
It was a book about ready to serve cocktails
from
Joe
Thomas.
Way back.
Yeah.
But that might not be the book you want to recommend. But
do you know what? I don't really read because I spend all my time reading.
So it might be a podcast.
Stuff,
it might be
I love podcasts. I love is the Off Menu podcast.
A lot of people like that one. Yeah.
Because do you know what it is? Their tone is completely in keeping with the zeitgeist.
Yeah.
Not too serious. Like the serious foodies are all. But you know the old days of like on Twitter where people were like, I think you'll find, like that kind of thing. Like people just get on with it, which I love now. It's definitely become more democratic food, less stuck up, which is, and I think that podcast really reflects that attitude because they eat, they talk about, could be someone's home cooking to, 5-star hotel, 3 Michelin star, but the tone of it is always the same. They don't give excuses for just because something's expensive that it's got to be good. Good food is just good food, right?
Yeah, and it's we've got a personal with Curzon Press. James Acaster.
Yeah, he
keeps
loves
on singing the Curzon Press rhubarb song. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, he loves it. So we love him for that. So last thing really is, have you got anything else going on in your world you'd like people to know about?
Just check out World of Zing. Simple. There's always something going on.
Exactly.
I don't know. We've
well
got
worth
another
tasting.
podcast on.
Get yourself down Majestic as well,
get
and get a bottle of these cocktails, which are, like I say, excellent. And actually, there's a fair few servings in there. So
yeah.
So
it's like 5 servings for bottle.
Yeah, and compared to if you go out for a cocktail, you're talking a big reduction on a cost of going out.
Well, we design them. We pitched them at the same price pro rata as like craft beer or nice wine.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're getting the same amount of serves, or price per unit, price per serve is basically the same.
Yeah, exactly.
Like £4 per serve or whatever it is.
And which is for a good cocktail is cheap.
Thank you.
Cheap.
Yeah, exactly.
Too cheap, one could
Too
argue.
cheap, right? We'll put the price.
No, really good value. Really
Thank
good value.
you.
So worth looking up. So, well, look, Pritesh, brilliant to see you again.
Likewise.
Thanks for coming on the
No
podcast.
problem. Thank you for having me.
And wish you all the luck with World of Zing going forward.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers, man.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe. And for more information, please visit tastehead.com. We hope you join us for our next episode.